right, so let's go around, be looking at defending UK nukes, the secret armed police. Now, this is kind of interesting because to have a police force or police that just they can defend the nukes within your country, um, I know I believe ours are either on they're either locked away in secretive bases or they're in like underground bunkers. And we got nuclear capabilities not too far at one of the bases not too far from me, but if I'm not mistaken, all the stuff is like kept underground, and also like we've got submarines with that kind of capability, and yeah, so we've got all kind of stuff, but it's more of it's not easily something that you're going to take and get around to, or it's all protected by the military basically. So that being said, the fact there's actually secret armed police that defend them, that's interesting. Let's get into it, shall we?
Echo X-ray 18, Foxtrot Yankee Mike, stand by, stand by.
Oh, police! Show me your hands! Oh, police, stay where you are! Don't move, stay where you are! Stay where you are! Stay where you are! Keep your hands where I can see them, do not move, stay where you are!
That would be terrifying.
I think the MDP's one of the best kept secrets, to be honest. You see a police car go
Well, they're not a secret no more if they're on something like this. Just saying.
by, you don't look at that closely at the badge on the door.
I don't think it's widely understood what the force actually does and what capabilities it has.
Put your hands on your head and lock your fingers.
The Ministry of Defence Police, or MDP, are a unique civilian police force, providing policing and protection for people, key sites and assets for the MOD. The force consists of around 3,000 officers spread across the country, protecting everything defence-related, from married quarters to nuclear submarines.
So they're civilian, but they're part of the military defense or the Ministry of Defense. But here we have like MPs, like which that's who you'd probably run into first if you tried doing anything in bases where the nuclear armaments here are kept, and even any like military designated area. Otherwise, you're going to run into some federal officer. Nothing civilian about them. So that's kind of an interesting little...
For the national security of the United Kingdom, they are critical.
Oi, Johnny.
Although it's not immediately obvious that these are not the regular police, there's one key difference. The MDP carry firearms.
Before we start, any reason why you shouldn't be armed this morning?
No, all good.
1X2, 1 Glock, 1 C8.
Officers are armed with the
Not, I was about to say, not only did they have that dude grab a pistol, he got a big boy toy too. Like that looks like an M16 almost, or militarized AR-15.
Colt C8 as their primary weapon system,
C8.
plus magazines. The Glock 17 Gen 5 is their secondary weapon system, magazines on the belt, a Taser X2 and battery pack, also wired up beneath the body armour to a camera on the head. They also carry baton, handcuffs and incapacitant spray, like the regular police force.
So you FAFO with them, and you're probably not going to like the FO part of it.
All armed officers carry an array of equipment which provides them with various options from their voice and their own demeanour and their way of negotiating with a person. That's one way of diffusing a situation, right up to the other end of the scale, which is the recourse to lethal force.
Stay where you are.
Police officer, a taser! You've got 50,000 volts pointing right at you. You've got 2 red dots on your chest, look at them now. Do not make any sudden movement. Okay, mate. Look at your chest, see the 2 red dots.
We're civilian police officers, you know, we're not above the law. We're working under the Queen's peace, not in a war zone.
Former Navy man Russ is a firearms instructor. Today, he's playing the role of an armed subject, which he says is essential for instructors to see close up where students go wrong.
I was going to say, I wonder, I mean, due to the fact that they're part of the Ministry of Defense, right? It would seem like any kind of like terrorist type activity, regardless of not whether they've like any targets for any kind of military installations or even like, anything to do with the crown or anything like that, it would seem like they would take part in subduing or raiding any like cells or any lone individuals who want to act with malice against the government itself, not just, at least it seems like they would react and take and do their duty also in that aspect. Now I'm sure, what MI5 and Scotland Yard and everything like that. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that there's probably a lot of talk between different agencies and stuff like that for coordination, but it would almost seem like they would take part in stuff of that nature as well. Especially seeing as they also taken, police on matters of national security.
Although there are similarities with his previous military career, there are also distinct differences.
When I was serving in the armed forces, we had rules of engagement cards that basically said what you could and couldn't do, when you could shoot and when you couldn't. When I joined the MDP, the decision to fire or not was down to the police officer on the ground. And if you can imagine the police officer, whether they decide to shoot or not in that split second, will be poured over by a court or whatever for however long it takes. If we think it's necessary to fire a shot, we fire one shot, we reassess. If the threat's still there and the shot's still justified, have a follow-up shot.
You in the room! Come to the door!
As soon as the threat is neutralised, and we're happy that everyone's safe, the threat no longer exists, then we become the carers.
So the next tactic we're going to show you is a 2-vehicle contain and call out. We've got one subject vehicle, a white van, with one white subject inside. He's been known to carrying firearms. We're going to do our best to stop that vehicle, contain it with the police vehicles, and then try and talk him out of the vehicle. What's actually going to happen, he's a very, very angry white male in that van. He's going to get out, point a gun at our subject, our officers, and they are going to hopefully use some form of force to stop that. If it all goes correctly, this should be a shoot scenario, and then we'll go on to a bit of first aid afterwards.
Oh, police, show me your hand!
Back off! Back off!
Now! Shots fired! Shots fired!
Okay, what we got on that wound? Yeah, got gunshot wound to the upper chest. We get an ambulance coming.
If we turn up and we use excess force, we fall sort of one side. If we don't use enough force and somebody gets shot or seriously injured, then we'll be criticised either way. So we really do walk that knife edge.
Exercise command. Contact, front! There you are, get back.
We're looking after infrastructure that, if in the wrong hands of the wrong people, could be detrimental to the world.
If you can imagine atomic weapons establishments, Clyde submarine bases are policed by armed MOD police officers. If they were compromised, that would affect the whole, the national security of the UK.
That would, that not only the national security of the UK, depending on what their intent is, global implications are also very nasty. I love the training that we've seen so far, them taking and subduing, bringing someone out of a house subdued, and now actually a shooting situation, someone that's an issue but also very angry, taking in, the guy having the gun, and then as soon as he makes a raising motion, both the officers firing a shot, neutralizing that threat, taking and going through repeated scenarios like that type of training, should that situation ever arise, like that training they're able to take and fall back on is going to serve them so well, and seeing the way they take and do it, and then automatically rendering aid. I'm impressed. I like seeing stuff like this, and it makes sense, kind of, having, though they're civilian, taking policing Ministry of Defense places, it takes and puts them in a separate category as far as, because here MPs and the military, them having something, a similar type situation, and things go sideways or something like that, like if too much force or something was done in the wrong way, they're going to be tried in a wholly separate way than what you would civilly, because you got the code of military justice here that would take and actually oversee. That's what they'd be punished by, unless it's a bad enough offense that there's a civil criminal case that follows with it. It's so seeing that's an interesting little dichotomy there between how they're doing it there in the UK, take and protect military and national security assets, versus how the military and the U.S. Department of Defense handle stuff here. Like that's very okay.
So, yeah, it's critical.
I find it. Yeah, I mean, again, going back to that differences, because here we very much have military bases and even a lot of like federal buildings and stuff like that. But federal buildings, for the most part, you're going to take and have Department of Homeland Security, and that's a whole different branch. Or you're going to have somebody, a lot of times it's local law enforcement that'll take and protect and police those. Most federal buildings, in and of themselves, don't hold enough. Don't they have to be specifically set up for holding secret stuff or holding something of national security matters or something like that. Although I'm pretty sure all of them have some kind of some kind of classified material that's in them. The national security aspect isn't with every federal building here in the U.S. Whereas our military bases, especially the ones with nukes, but even outside the ones that have nuclear armaments and stuff like that, a lot of bases having something, the right information or the right stuff taken from them, the threat to national security that could be done, that's all handled by the military, every freaking bit of it. Now I'm sure this, you got the three-letter agencies like CIA and the FBI that also would take and, number one, be investigated anything out of anything odd or out of the ordinary and stuff like that. Typically they should be on their A game, but on military base it's going to be the MPs that normally take care of stuff like that, for the most part, since you're on a military base, and they're going to have special forces on that base itself to protect the certain areas, and they're going to be classified areas, so you're going to have special privileges even to take and get to where they have anything of that nature. And that's the other thing. I think that the secrecy classifications also, depending on what is being held there, that has national security implications. A lot of times, the security clearances that you have to have kind of determine the amount of security that they have there at that base, and what measures have to be gone through before somebody's even allowed to the point where they could get in to get anything. So, all of that still would be hit. That's still all basically military police, and they're under UCMJ military. Um, Crap, my head all of a sudden went blank. Under the purview of the military, as far as any kind of disciplinary actions, unless it's egregious enough that it's has to take and go to a civil criminal court, because otherwise you can be thrown in military prison for a very, very, very long time. So, oftentimes, though, something like that, like that, they don't take a whole lot of chances with it. They try to take and, if at all possible, take someone alive, glean what they can, see if they're, what kind of ulterior motives, and maybe if someone took and if they're part of something broader and stuff like that. But they don't. That's something that's not handled in the civilian realm at all for the most part. So the fact that y'all have a police force over there that's under the Ministry of Defense that takes care of places that are of national security, and your nuclear armaments and different defense related stuff in and of itself is pretty interesting. And seeing the training and how everything's done, I love seeing videos like this because it shows a clear cut difference, at least from what I know of, to how things kind of operate. I hope y'all enjoyed this. Y'all be good to each other. Love yourselves. Peace.